YouTube poop. Where there's smoke, they pinch back.
Arthur, this means no TV for a week.
What?
This means no donuts for a week.
What?
This means no
delicious sliders
for a week.
What?
This means no for a week.
What?
This means no for a week.
What?
This means no
bacon and eggs.
for a week.
What?
I said bacon and eggs.
This means no
Colgate toothpaste.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Piss out, Duelo.
for a week.
What?
Piss out, Duelo. And shit out, Duelo are two different things.
This means no
Shit out, Duelo.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Fucking everybody, Bismarck.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Get fucked in the ass.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Call people dicks.
for a week.
What?
This means no
YouTube,
for a week.
What?
This means no
primetime Pokemon,
for a week.
What?
This means no
Power thirst!
for a week.
What?
This means no
Gun!
for a week.
What?
This means no
Glowing sweat!
for a week.
What?
This means no
Sweet rave parties!
for a week.
What?
This means no
Running!
for a week.
What?
This means no
Football!
for a week.
What?
This means no
Arson!
for a week.
What?
This means no
Crystal meth!
for a week.
What?
This means no
Dinner.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Power glove.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Cakes.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Silence!
for a week.
What?
This means no
Stuff.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Sword.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Lock.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Evil.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Lamp oil.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Rope.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Bombs.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Credit.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Fishing.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Prison.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Water.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Life.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Ice.
for a week.
What?
This means no
War.
for a week.
What?
This means no
Soul.
for a week.
What?
This means no
House.
for a week.
What?
I don't give a shit.
You dare defy me? You will die.